What is going on, guys and girls? How are you doing today? It's Single Roleplay here once again, and today I want to talk a little about the series of the games in the Dead Space franchise, guys. I just finished all three games one by one, and if you have never played some of them, I just wanted to share my thoughts on the meta, guys. So the first game was released in 2008, has been developed by the studio owned by Electronic Arts called the Redwood Shores. The game kind of pioneered the whole thing of survival horror in space, because prior to that there were not really like many games like this. There was mostly just Resident Evil games, and that's about it. There were multiple shooters with aliens and shit in space, but not really a survival horror game. That's why this game has really got great reviews. It was critically acclaimed, but received very well reviews. And I've been collecting video games back in the day, and there was also a very expensive ultra limited edition on Xbox with like big box and shit, like fancy big box. It cost tremendous amount of money, around like thousands of dollars. It's very expensive. So the first game, if I want to talk about it, yes, it's a pioneer game, first in the series. It is a good game, definitely. It is the slowest game of all. It's the most suspense-packed game. It has the biggest survival horror aspect over there, the biggest suspense, the biggest slowest gameplay ever. It is the introduction to this to the Dead Space series, and it's considered to be, among many players, to be one of the best games in the series, and probably the best out of them all. But for me personally, uh, it's not the case, and you will understand why. I think that this is not the best game in the series, mostly for the fact because it's quite short. Back in the day, I used to watch this game being played by my friend. He used to play it, and I've just been sitting there like watching the game nearby, and looked pretty good game, very scary, very long. It took like several days for us to beat it, but when I played it myself, I finished the game in about I think 8 to 9 hours, and this is rather short for a game, I think. I mean, it's not bad. You don't get like bored or anything, but fucking 9 hours, like 8 9 hours for a game such big as this, like the pioneering, the whole thing about it. I think it's rather short, and for what it is, it's a great game. Very fun to play. There's a lot of things that you can do, but still, this is the first in the series that's just a tryout. Uh, and for great things that it is, I think it's a little bit underwhelming in terms of the like, how should I put it? How you like dive deep into the whole thing. You kind of just starting to taste uh, the juice inside the game, and then you see like you suddenly approaching towards the end, and then the game just ends. So that was a little bit of a letdown for me, but still, it's a great game. The second part of the game has been released 3 years after the first one, and it has been developed by the Visceral Studios, which actually is the same Redwood Shores owned by Electronic Arts. But the first game was so damn popular; it has received such a fantastic reviews and was a pretty massive success for the company, so that they decided to branch out as kind of the more independent, studio, uh, kind of dedicated to developing more Dead Space games, which is rather cool. And what I expected from the second game is to be like the upgrade over the first one, but unfortunately, that was not the case. Uh, First of all, the whole micromanagement, like the gear and the ammo, the healing and everything, it is pretty much the same in the second game, with the only very small difference that you have like the little variations of the existing weapons in the game, like a little slower version but more damage, or like you get less clip ammo, or just slightly faster reload or something like that. So it's not like a big improvement over the first game, unfortunately. I was rather surprised with that. I thought that the second game would bring kind of more shit into the franchise. Visually, it's definitely an upgrade. It looks better, but I would not say it's kind of the dramatic improvement over the first game. At the same time, the whole suspense thing, like the survival horror element, it got weaker in the second game because the second game became faster and there's way more monsters, there's way more action, and you literally wake up on a space station on the second game in the middle of the chaos and literally start killing things from the very first minute you fucking appear in the game, which already tells you that this is practically not the first game. We're just slowly walking, you know, trying to find these necromorphs who jump on you from the from the walls and shit. The second game puts you right into action. There's a lot of killing, a lot of ammo. There's way more ammo in the second game. You literally as like getting hundreds of the rounds and shit. Unlike the first game where you really is always kind of low and have like 5-10 rounds and just keep going and have to manage your ammo. The second game is more kind of gives you more freedom on that. On hard, of course, it's harder. On normal, it's easier, but still. So more action packed. And unfortunately, the biggest letdown for me, the biggest problem with the second game for me, I was extremely surprised in how short the game is. It's like super short compared to the first game. You know, and the second game is meant to. I thought I'm going to have the sequel. It's meant to be kind of the bigger version of the original, but in this rare case, it's not. The game lasts for about 6 to 7 hours. Like, it has the same amount of chapters that the first game, like, 15 chapters of that. But it is super short, very fast. Every chapter is very short. You progress very fast, and a huge letdown for me, guys. I expected a big game, and what I felt after completing the game was kind of ripped off on my money. 6-7 hours in the game like this is like nothing. I mean, the game has been developed independently. They had a lot of time to develop the game, juice it up with all kind of shit. And what you get, it is a 6-hour experience in such a massive, potentially massive game, guys. What a huge letdown for me. So I think this is the weakest game in the series, definitely for me. It has its interesting parts, like they developed the multiplayer in this game, but I think it required like 4-on-4 teams fighting the necromorphs. I'm not sure it's even possible now, because where do you get like 8 people playing the same fucking game? It's like 10 years old and shit. I think it's not even playable anymore, but still, good attempt from them to try to bring some multiplayer juice in there. I'm not sure how well it was implemented or how did it work, but maybe they thought that the multiplayer will be kind of a little more over the single player experience, but so far really depressing. Alright, so the third game has been developed 2 years after this. The second one has also been developed by the same studio called the Visceral Games, and this was kind of the game that pioneered the online co-op mode. And overall, the third game has been designed with an idea in mind to be kind of the co-op game, because it even has the built-in co-op missions which can only be played in co-op mode. I'm not sure how good co-op is now. You can obviously play with friends, I think, but overall, I think it's a fantastic idea. And overall, when you play the game, you can feel like how much more action-packed it is compared to the first and the second game, even the second one. Speaking about the game itself, guys, I want to spoil a little bit and tell you that this is the absolutely best game out of all 3. The main thing for me that made it so good is that it's a very long game. I finished it in 26 hours, actually 27 on Steam, but even if I like AFK a couple of hours, it's like a solid 25-24 hours experience, comparing to miserable 6 hours in the second game and somewhat okay, like 9 hours in the first game. 26 hours, like 3 times more than the first game almost. It's crazy amount of things you can do in this game. First of all, you can travel between the ships and stations. There's 4 different ships you can travel in between in space. You literally fly in space between different ships in a spacesuit. This is crazy. At the same time, there's a huge crafting system in the third game, because you run around the ships and stations collecting different electronic garbage, scrap parts and shit. You find different things, and you can build your own weapons. For example, you can easily build a plasma cutter with a Reaper down below, or a grenade launcher with a pulse rifle. You can craft your own weapons, which is pretty amazing. It's not like the first game where you're just given the shit, or the second game where you're just given the variations of shit. In this game, in the third, you actually can craft stuff whatever you want. You can upgrade existing stuff by giving it like extra ammo, extra reload speed, extra damage, extra clip or something like that. There's a huge amount of freedom and also fantastic amount of replay value, because the way that the game works, you will not be able to craft like everything you want, especially since I played on hard mode. I didn't have a lot of resources. I started saving resources since about chapter 13, and yes, the game has a lot of chapters. This game has almost 20 chapters, unlike the first and the second, where there's like 15 as far as I can remember. This has almost 20 chapters, and they're long as hell. The game is action-packed. There's a lot of action. As for the suspense, actually, you know, there is suspense. There is survival horror, but it's being compensated with the crazy amount of action and some really unexpected encounters, guys. Like you go to the save point and then the shit just jumps on you from the roof or something like that, from some ceiling or whatever. You just don't expect shit in this game, and I was completely surprised in sometimes. So, for those people who keep saying that this game is like more action-packed and not really about the survival horror, I think this is wrong. There's a lot of survival horror, there's a lot of suspense, a lot of scary, shitty moments where you just, shit your pants really heavily. There's a lot of shit like that. So, and this game, like I said, has a heavy co-op mode. You can play with your friend or whatever, just finish the campaign. There's even like the co-op campaign mode out there in the game, which is like a separate feature in the game. It was very cool. And what I really like in the hard mode, this is rather true hard mode here. The hard mode in the second game was extremely easy. I had plenty of ammo, didn't really need to do anything. I just bought some ammo and health, and that was fine. And in the third game, the hard mode became really fucking hard after about the second part of the game, and about chapter 13. I couldn't even go on without buying ammo and healing, because I kept running out of ammo and healing at all. At the end of the game, I kept crawling, saving, consuming everything I could just to keep on going, guys. This was really fun. So overall, in my opinion, the third game is a huge upgrade over the second and the first game, especially the second, because second was really shitty, short, a lot of action, time flies by very fast, you have nothing else to do there. But the third is a crazy experience, a lot of crafting, a lot of experiments, fantastic replay value, co-op mode, very long storyline campaign. A lot of fun, guys. Can highly recommend. If you have never played like the third part of the game, can highly recommend to buy it on some sale, guys. I don't think you will be disappointed in this one. So that's it, my thoughts, guys. On the Dead Space franchise. I hope you liked the video. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.